Alrighty, here we go.
All right.
I'm here with Charles Gamble. How are you doing today, man?
Doing all right, man.
All right.
Good.
So you are. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just introduce yourself.
Well, I am a police officer now, newly
Congratulations.
police officer, and, Jiu Jitsu black belt, and
Also,
guess-
congratulations.
and then also a former MMA fighter. So,
Yes, excellent. Professional.
yep,
Excellent. How long have you been a police officer?
not long, probably maybe 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
And you went to Carroll County, the Carroll County Police Academy,
Yep.
but were hired to Towson University, correct?
Yep.
So is that when you get hired out of? Did you apply before you went into the academy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was already employed with Towson University,
Mhm.
and the position came available. I knew a lot of the guys that worked for the agency already, so I just kind of talked to them, and they all said go forward, and I literally applied. 1 week later, I had an interview, and I was hired. So I was
Excellent.
like, okay.
So what made you decide to become a police officer?
Something I've always thought about, but
Mhm.
never really wanted to do. Just kind of the times, and I just felt like it was the right time for me to do it. With this current climate, it was the right time for me to make that leap.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
39, and you say the times.
Yeah.
The times are what made you decide to become a police officer.
Yes.
Now, see, I would think, given everything that's happened in the last year, that it would be the opposite.
And that's what a lot of people believe.
Oh.
It's rough. It's a rough position, a rough job,
Mhm.
but I felt like I had more to give to the community.
Mm.
You know, being African American male, also, you know, just being able to help people out, especially young people,
Yeah.
understand the police role and what our jobs are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt like I could help. That's why I wanted to apply.
Well, I think that's a good reason to get into it, especially, 39 is not the age I think most people would typically think of someone starting that career.
Exactly.
Usually people started around 21 or so, right?
Yeah, actually, we had a few people in our academy that turned 21
Mhm.
all in the academy. So, yeah, it's people start when they're young. You don't really see anybody my age start like that. But
Mhm.
like I said, it's sign of times. I felt like it was time for me to do something.
Were you the oldest person in your class?
Luckily, I was not. At the time, I was going through the academy. I was 38. There was another guy. He was 40. He was the oldest. So
Okay.
it was him, me, and another guy after that. He was like 36.
Okay. So you said you wanted to kind of help people understand what the role of the police
Mhm.
is, or are, what the roles are. What, in your words, what is the role of the police?
To protect and serve the community. And that's number one. It's being out there. There's multiple ways to protect and serve the community.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, casually walking around, spark a conversation up with somebody, talk about things. The more you talk about something in a non-confrontational environment, the more you learn.
Mm-hmm.
The more somebody learns from you. Being at Towson with a bunch of college kids, they already have a preconceived notion of what we do. Oh, you guys are just here to lock us up and make sure we don't party, make sure we don't do this. No, man, make sure you're okay too. There are a lot of
Yeah.
things that happen around outside of the university that we don't want coming in.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Towson has such a low rate, of crime rate, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
because we protect things from coming into the campus.
Yeah. I was looking at, I don't know if they're the most recent stats, just the crime, what the percentage of certain crimes are, and I saw that 80% are possession. That really stood out to me. Obviously it's a college campus, so
Yeah.
people are going to be doing that kind of stuff. But then I saw violence against women was, I think around 3 or 4%. But I
Mhm.
did see that it had a specific category. How often do you see that?
Not very often,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And when it happens, we kind of get on it right away to kind of make sure that individual is safe
Mhm.
and put them in a safe environment. So it doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your training at the police academy.
A lot of running. I hate
A lot of
running. And then a lot of law. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember when I got hired, I remember thinking, oh God, it's going to be school all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I haven't been in school in years, so I was like, okay. And just learning the law and understanding the law are two different things from my time in the academy, from what I've learned. People can know the law.
Yeah.
Like you'll see people like they get stopped by the police or whatever. They say, oh, I know my rights. I know this, I know that. But you don't understand it. You don't understand. Yeah, you can know certain things, but you don't understand like a lot of it. And so they end up getting jammed up there. We're trying to, what they will say, what the police will say, resisting. Once you start, resisting arrest, that leads on to bigger charges. And they don't understand that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I believe the general public should know the law in and out to protect themselves, because there are people out there that will kind of, jam you up or stuff like that if you don't know how to protect yourself the right way. But I don't know if I properly answered that question.
No, I mean, it's just that, I often wonder about that. Like how much time, because there are a lot of laws. The law is very intricate. Yeah. It's not just, this is right, this is wrong, this is allowed, this isn't.
There's a lot of gray area.
A lot of words.
Yeah.
A lot of language.
Yeah. I think the biggest one for police is Terry, Ohio. That's a big one. I believe was it Graham versus Conn or something like that? That's another big one. I might be messing that up, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Let me put you on the spot. What are those? Because I don't know.
Well, the Terry versus Ohio I believe is I shouldn't say I believe, but it's the right for search and seizure. Like I can't just walk down the street and say, hey, look, put your hands out, let me search you. There's got to be probable cause for me to do that. Either I believe that you're in possession of drugs or a weapon, especially if I believe you have a weapon, then that gives me probable cause to stop you and search you. But got to know those rights. Okay. And I can't just see a balls in your hand and be like, oh, what is that? And let me search you.
Yeah. I did want to talk about that. I'm glad we jumped into that. Search and seizure. So New York a few years back, and I don't know if they still do it, they just had like the stop and frisk law. And that, from my understanding,
Baltimore had that too.
Baltimore did. Yeah. Where any police officer could just decide that someone looked suspicious and just stop and frisk them. Is that still a thing? Is that still in place?
No.
Okay.
From where I'm at Baltimore County and Towson, no. We can't just say stop and frisk you. We have to have probable cause or reasonable amount of suspicion to stop somebody and frisk them.
So I wanted to talk. You said you're a Towson University police officer, but you also have jurisdiction in Baltimore County. Just to clarify for everyone.
Yeah.
So say you see me walking down the street. I'm just want to get it. What would cause you to stop me, to talk to me?
Behavior patterns. I would need to see like shiftiness, trying to avoid people or looking at certain things. Something that had to stand out that says this guy either has something or is about to do something. Other than that, I really don't have any reason to. Or if there's a crime in that particular area, then yeah, I can pretty much say, hey, you know anything about this? And kind of like observe your behaviors while I'm asking you questions like that. And if you kind of look sketchy or really want to get out of the way, maybe that would be a probable cause. But there's got to be something tangible to stand out for me to do that.
Is that the decision process? Is that stressful? Is that something when
it is, because you just don't know, man. You don't know about certain things. Everybody can have a knife. Anybody can have a gun. So it's like when you're starting to approach those situations, you need to be calm and be able to think clearly about what you're doing.
Okay. So you do a lot of theory, we'll say, of the law. What kind of training do you do in the police academy for instances to determine if you should stop somebody if they may be carrying a gun or a knife?
There's a lot of role playing and scenarios that we go through in the academy. And it's pretty much to evaluate your assessment of who you would stop and who you wouldn't stop. What probable cause did they give you? Things of that nature. So it's a lot of trial and error. I think I did pretty well. Had some instances where I was like, oh crap, I probably should have did this, probably did that. But that's going to happen. And my instructors were like, hey, look, not every time you're going to get guns and weapons off of people. Sometimes you're going to miss them, but when you get them, make sure you know everything from start to finish. You know, don't miss anything. Don't miss any steps. Don't assume somebody's going to have stuff. So
when they say don't miss anything, don't miss any steps, what are
just clues? Like people will give you clues, and you just got to be aware. Just kind of figure them out and see what you have. You know, like let's say I have something and we're talking now, and I kind of shift myself. I blade myself a little bit
to like hide a ball or something.
Okay. Yeah, that's a clue. It's like why would I shift my way if I don't want to look at you in the eyes? I'm looking everywhere else. If I'm trying to get you to go away quickly, those are clues. You can't miss those things.
Okay. What type of medical training or first responder training do you receive?
Well, before I went in, I was already CPR certified, stuff like that from Towson. I was trained on the AED and things like that nature. And then there in the academy, it was pretty much the same thing, but then we got into tourniquets and things of that nature, like how to apply a tourniquet, where you should apply it depending on where part of the body it's going to be placed. Other than that, just very basic, just enough to keep somebody alive and for the medics to get there. Yeah. For somebody smarter than me to get there that way.
And how long was the academy training?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months. I think they've extended it now. I think it's like 8 months now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you think that's because of, like you said, the times, just everything that's been going on?
It's the times, man. And then there's a lot of mental health now. Okay. That former cops never had to really worry about. Yeah. As a university police officer, I have to worry about that because kids flip out when they're like comes kind of finals time. And so that was a big emphasis in the academy too, is mental health. You know, learning the cues, autism. Make sure you can tell if a person's on the spectrum or not. You know, don't just assume that they're just being obedient to your orders. You know, so there's a lot of that. That part was very stressful because we did some role playing there, and my first time I didn't take it very well. It was pretty bad, and then after that I kind of learned how to handle those situations a little bit better.
What kind of behavior do you look for when you're looking for a person? You know, if you are encountering someone who is acting out of the ordinary and you're trying to determine, is this person well? How do I approach this? Should I be afraid? Or should I be, how do I de-escalate this situation?
Your first thing to go in, is this person being violent or not? If they're not being violent, or not being non-combative, I would say, being non-combative, you don't necessarily need to go hands-on. Get that person some space. Because if anybody's on the spectrum, if you like get really aggressive with them and you're right in their space, they're going to flip out. You don't want that. You don't want to cause a scene. Just kind of want to reassure them that everything's going to be okay. You're just here to make sure everybody's safe, everything's going on, everything's fine. And then you start asking, hey, where are you from? You know, how'd you get here? Who was your parent or guardian or your supervisor or whatever like that? Just kind of talking to them like they're human. Yeah. You don't want to just fire off a bunch of random questions at them and they're like, and then if you don't answer a question, you start getting loud. That's what happens, you know, what happened in the past anyway. That's why we have all this mental health training. Officers will give a command, person doesn't respond well to the said command, and they start flipping out. You know, give them some time to answer the questions.
Okay. What kind of is there? So you have to take a psych eval. Obviously, everyone kind of, that's like pop culture. Everyone kind of knows that. How is that? Like, what are they? I mean,
man,
is it odd? What are they looking for? Is it just?
It is the most stressful thing I've ever taken in my entire life.
Really?
Yeah, and I've been underneath of a 300-pound man in jiu-jitsu, and that was way more stressful than that. I'll take that any day of the week, but it's just to evaluate you, man, and it's tough because you don't know what they're looking for. They don't tell you what they're looking for. You know, and being a former fighter and stuff like that, I'm choking people out, I'm beating people up, and I'm like, damn, I'm crazy now.
Oh, are they asking you questions about history of violence?
Yeah, it's like, well, have you done this before? Have you done that? Well, yeah, I've done a lot of that. I'm like, but it was done in an environment that, you know, that I'm supposed to do that in. I don't fight outside of the ring or in the cage. So, and going in, I felt completely sane. Going out, I thought it was crazy.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think they catch a lot of, like, do you think they filter a lot of people out?
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely do.
is there continuing mental health like evaluations or?
I believe a lot of agencies do that.
Mm-hmm.
They do continue. Ours doesn't. We're a very small agency.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of training though. We do a lot of trainings, but as far as like reevaluation, I haven't seen it quite yet. Maybe we do. I just haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm. Because you're brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new. Do they have resources available?
Oh yeah, we definitely do. We have the Health and Counseling Center, which is probably about 2-3 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly new. They have a lot of different resources for officers, for anybody there actually, students, faculty. They just kind of reach out if you're feeling a little stressed out. They have many services they provide.
Have you utilized those services?
I haven't had to. I've always had jiu-jitsu.
Not yet. Yeah, it is. It is a powerful outlet, isn't it? It's a great stress reliever. Going into the academy, as you know, as a fighter, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, how do you feel about the type of training you receive to deal with subduing somebody, controlling them? How would you rate it?
That's a good question. My DT instructor was really good.
What's DT?
Defensive tactics.
Okay.
But he was a big Krav Maga guy. He was really into Krav Maga.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm into, like I said, jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. I don't need to punch you and kick you to kind of get you under control. I know how to control the human body if I need to. So there were some things here and there we would discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Hey, look, man. Sometimes if you're on the bottom, your life is on the line. You got to fight." I agree with that. You got to fight with that. But as far as like the training I received, I thought it was about a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. Like I said, he put more of an emphasis on Krav Maga style, and then I would use my jiu-jitsu influence, and I'd show him the different things that I knew I could do that other people couldn't do, or my other classmates couldn't do.
Yeah. How do you feel about in the martial arts community? There's all this. Oh, my martial art is better than your martial art. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you see people online, jiu-jitsu guys calling out Krav Maga guys, like, come fight any one of my dudes. How do you feel about Krav Maga? Is it an effective, competition jiu-jitsu is just no striking jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So let's say, like old school Gracie jiu-jitsu with strikes and Krav Maga. How do they
Jiu-jitsu
compare?
would win every time.
Really?
Every time. Every time.
Every time?
Every time. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Do you think you're biased just because you're a black belt? I mean, you've spent a lot of time doing it.
Well, I started out at Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Before I started getting heavy into jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I have to say that, man. It's without a doubt jiu-jitsu would win. Once the guy's on the ground, man, it's a wrap.
That's it.
Like you minimize what you can actually do striking wise. Yeah, you can probably throw some elbows. You can probably throw a few punches, but those won't hurt too much if you're standing.
Yeah.
You won't be able to use your body to really turn into those punches, those kicks. Be fine with that. And you'll get submitted and you'll know. Not saying that Krav Maga, there's nothing wrong with Krav Maga. I'm just saying, yeah, jiu-jitsu. And yes, I am biased.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, I want to talk more about your time as a police officer now. Obviously, you spend most of your time probably at the university on campus, right? Am I right in that? And then, obviously, a lot of people are distance learning. Are you still seeing a lot of activity?
Not as what I would see if everybody was there. If from the reports that I've read from the previous year, there'd be a lot more CDS. There'd be a lot more
CDS,
marijuana.
Oh, okay.
You get a lot of that in the dorms.
I imagine.
Yeah, and you get a lot more people. Like we do a lot of well-being checks, stuff like that. Like I said, around finals time, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to fail, and they start flipping out, and you got to check on them, make sure they're not wanting to hurt themselves physically like that. So it's a lot of that.
Do you see a lot of? I really don't know the Towson, Baltimore area that far north. How far out of the city proper is Towson?
It's not very far.
No. Do you see some of the crime. Baltimore has a reputation. Do you see some of that crime start to
It comes up.
slide that way?
Comes up.
Mm.
Especially, when people around on the campus, stuff like that, on the weekends or at night, they'll come up. They'll do whatever they got to do to rob somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll make their way back down to the city. Yeah, it happens quite a bit. I've assisted Baltimore County with a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
It was a few kids came up. I guess it was an armed robbery, and they went to scatter back down Baltimore City, but they were caught before they made it back down.
Okay. Were they in like a vehicle? Was that like a traffic?
No, they were
stop
on
that
foot.
got 'em? Mm.
They were on foot. They were up by the bars, robbed a few kids by knife point, actually stabbed one, and
Oh.
yeah. And then they tried to make their way back down home, and they were caught before they got even close.
So what's that response look like? You get a report that someone's been stabbed, and are you out on foot at that point?
It depends. Like if I hear someone's been stabbed and I hear a location, yeah, I could be out on foot, but it's probably best to be in my vehicle where I can get around a little faster.
Mm-hmm. Did that come down to a foot chase though?
I think Baltimore County ended up catching them beforehand. But
Okay.
yeah, but we pretty much set a perimeter up. It was a collaboration between Baltimore County and us, and we were able to catch them without going into too much detail of it.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Have you had any situations that were pretty unnerving or scary?
Yeah, actually, I was driving around uptown Towson actually,
Yeah.
and literally just picking up lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the night shift, and I see this kid coming down the wrong way on a one-way street, and I'm like, I'm driving up, and I just stopped. And I was like, all right, maybe he's going to just turn around and he's going to back, so I'll give him some time. Nope, he just kept coming all the way down. Turned on my lights and sirens, he just kept coming down, and I was like, oh crap, is he going to crash right into me? He ended up turning around, and I stopped him. And I was like, and I could see him fumble around in his car while I was approaching the vehicle. Turned on my lights and everything. I was pretty nervous. Like, I hope this kid does not have a gun or anything on him to make me have to react a certain way. Luckily, he was just lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, my heart was racing, and I was like, thank God he's got nothing on him. Ran him through. He checked out fine. Gave him a warning. Don't turn on the wrong street.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Okay. Yeah, just a warning.
Yeah, we talked it out quite a bit. I was like, look, man, you're late at night, driving the wrong way down the street. I thought you were intoxicated by coming down this far.
Yeah.
Or had something. And so we just talked it out. He was a good kid. He ended up going his way. I went my way. Gave him a warning.
So you said you're real nervous because at that point anything could happen, right?
Exactly. And most things with officers' death happen during traffic stops.
Mm-hmm.
Traffic stops and domestics is where officers get hurt the most. So it's like when you're approaching that, you want to be extremely cautious, but yet firm and demanding at the same time.
I always think about that, because, and what do you think the cause of that is? What do you think the difference between, I don't know, why do you think those two situations are the most dangerous for police officers?
You don't know what you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea. I've seen so many videos where officers get shot or wounded, killed, approaching vehicles that they have no idea what's going on. And a lot of times too, it's a little bit of carelessness too on officers' spot.
Mm-hmm.
You go up, you get used to doing traffic stops. Okay, another traffic stop, going to do this, going to do that. But it's not a routine stop.
Mm-hmm.
You got to handle each one with care. As a matter of fact, I had a colleague, he had a traffic stop that seemed routine, was not routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He ended up having to deploy a taser because
Okay.
because it wasn't a routine stop.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's talking about everything we've seen in the past couple years? A lot of these incidents where people lose their lives, where maybe they shouldn't. It's always in question. Do you think that's why these situations escalate to that level? Because
Yeah. It's fear on both ends.
mm-hmm.
We as officers, we're fearful too. Civilians are fearful. People say, I don't want to get shot. You're not going to get shot as long as you got something or you're trying to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get shot. We just need to figure out what's going on. We figured that out. If you cooperate, we can get it done. We can both part. Now, if you do have something on you, please cooperate. Nobody gets hurt.
Yeah. Do you run into a lot of people that, oh, this is kind of a stupid question, but that aren't cooperative, that try to give you the I know my rights?
All the time. Even like, literally my first stop when I got out was a guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I know my rights. I don't have to do this. I don't do that. I was like, technically, you do. You know, I'm asking you. I'm ordering you as an officer to, give me the information I need.
Yeah.
Eventually, he provided information. I don't want to go back and forth with the guy. But he eventually gave me the information I needed, gave him his information back. I was like, all right, we're good. We can go.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you get a lot of people like that.
Do you have people recording you often?
Actually, I did.
There's a lot of...
Yeah, I have.
I mean, with the incidents you often see them recorded, from both the police perspective and whoever else is involved in the situation, from bystanders and stuff. But then you do see videos online, the police to police or whatever, and it's someone who's, doing a First Amendment audit, acting somewhat, doing things that are just a little out of the ordinary, so the police come and stop them, and it's like, well, everything I'm doing is legal. No, I'm not going to give you my identification. Do you run into those situations?
Sure have. It absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a car accident. Didn't involve this individual at all.
Mm-hmm.
They were way on the other side of the street. We're handling. We're being attentive to the victim, trying to make sure she's good with the first aid and everything like that. Make sure she's okay. Then we start, looking at the crime scene, what's going on with the accident, the vehicle information, and this guy just comes out of nowhere. And so we're like, okay, sir, stay where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come any closer because this is a crime scene here. We got to deal with this accident, or accident scene. Sorry. And he's like, I know my rights. I can record this. I'm a citizen. I'm like, and I look at him. I turned him. I said, sir, that officer told you to stay back. If you get any closer to this, you're going to be arrested for interference. He said, well, you can't arrest me. You can't arrest me. I know my rights. And I was like, technically, you're on Towson property. This isn't private property or public property. It's private property.
Okay.
And you're on our campus. You've been given the order to stay back. You've said twice that to disregard that order. Third time is not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
So he already had his phone out recording everybody and everything like that. And then he starts getting mad as well, because another guy, I think he was putting on his mask when he was coming out. He said, well, this guy doesn't have a mask on, and I feel for my safety. And I'm looking at him, I was like, dude, you don't have a mask on. And if you feel for your safety, go home. Nobody's telling you to stay here.
Yeah.
Just go home. So he was just being a complete dick, and he run into stuff like that.
It sounds stressful. I feel like, if you are out there just trying to help with first aid, and then you have people come up solely to give you a hard time, or
that's all that was.
To see how far they can push the boundaries.
He knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what he was doing too. So it made it a little bit easier on me, knowing that he's just trying to egg me on. So just kind of relax, keep my distance. As long as he's not approaching the scene, he's staying where I told him to stay. He can say whatever he wants to say from there. He can record whatever he wants to record. Just don't get any closer.
Yeah. Do you ever go into northern Baltimore County as part of?
No.
Okay. Because that's more rural, correct?
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of different calls you'd see up there versus in your area.
That's a good question. I would have to assume it's more of more domestic, more some thefts. I can see that. You can be up there doing that. Other than that, CDS and also alcohol. You can see that. I could probably see all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know. I thought maybe you were just confined to Towson. I didn't know you had the whole county.
I am primarily. That's my primary jurisdiction, and then the surrounding Towson area. I don't really venture outside of Towson. There's no reason for me to be out there.
Yeah.
Unless called for support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How has the pandemic changed things? I mean, you graduated during the pandemic, but you said you look at the history of calls and stuff. Do you see? Excuse me. What differences do you see?
Well, you don't see like the You don't really see the assaults you would see anymore.
Mm.
Like the fights and things like that. You don't see that. You don't see the theft because there's nobody around.
Yeah.
Mostly it's very quiet. Just kind of checking in on people that haven't been around or haven't checked in with their parents. You get a lot of that. Some kids are still on campus. They're like, hey,
Really?
Yeah, they're still living in the dorms. They're like, hey, my son or daughter, I haven't heard from him in a week. Can you check in on them? Come knock on the door, they answer. Hey, call your parents. They're looking for you.
It's probably weird. A weird visit from the police. But.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's kind of like I kind of feel like when I get one of those calls, I'm just security. I'm not really.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird dealing with those. It's like why am I dealing with this? Just call the RA, tell the RA to go up there and check on them. But.
What kind of how is Towson, the police department in particular, how are they dealing with the pandemic? You know, have you been tested for work?
Actually, that's a good question because yes, we have. We have a online check-in we have to fill out every month, or not every month. I'm sorry, every day. We report to duty. Also, they do random checks. I've been tested twice, negative results.
Like a random swab?
Oh yeah, they'll send us an email says, hey, look, you've been random selected, come on in and take the COVID test. So we schedule that, go in, take it. Negative, you go back to work. Positive, stay home. And then they do the contact tracing and everything like that too.
Yeah. Have you been exposed to people through the line of duty?
I have not, but a few have. Where they've had to go in to respond at a certain location and come to find out that person had COVID, and then they have to go through the protocol as well.
Yeah. What is that like? Is that like a 14-day quarantine or?
Yeah, well, it's a 14-day quarantine, but it's also mandatory testing. If they come up negative, then they go right back to work.
Oh, okay. Is the quarantine paid? Just curious.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if it's a continual, you test positive 14 days, you test positive again another 14 days. I don't know how that goes. Yeah. They haven't told us about that yet.
Probably a certain number of hours you get.
Yeah.
I haven't been tested at work. I'm a nurse. I work at a hospital, but I haven't been tested. Not for work. I've been tested outside of work, but I always find that interesting. My dad gets tested every week. He works at a nursing home. He does maintenance. So it's good to hear that you're testing you. It's we're getting tested, man. It's the first time I was like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but I'm used to being uncomfortable. The second time, that lady, she was really in there, and I was like, oh my God. Are you doing it in the car? Like, do you put your head back?
Well, it's an outdoor station they had us in. I just kind of sat down. I was like, I just grabbed my legs real tight.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun.
Have you found yourself in any situations where you've had to enforce laws you don't personally agree with, or just do things that you really wouldn't want to do, that you just don't believe in, maybe?
No, I haven't been in that situation yet. I've heard stories of other officers being in those situations and things like that, having to do it, I've seen a ton of Instagram stories of officers doing that, of having to go in and enforce the bar policies and stuff like that the governor mandates.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then they go on Instagram or whatever social media and kind of do their rant about why they had to go do it, why they don't want to do it, stuff like that, or why he or she did it, or why they didn't do it. And then it comes down that their department will, come down on them for that. Yeah, it sucks. We're going to have to do something we don't want to do. But if it comes down from the department, you can do it. I can't just, my sergeant tells me to do something. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. What if you thought it was unconstitutional? Since we brought this up, because some of the sheriffs in California are making the news because
of that.
They don't want to enforce these lockdowns.
I don't blame those guys, man. Yeah. Like, I've heard the stories. I've seen it. I don't blame them. Okay? If something like that happened where I felt like it was the wrong call or something like that, or I had to enforce a law that I didn't want to, I don't know what I would do. I believe that I would be strong in my convictions, but you never know.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to see if I can't adjust this curtain here to fix the lighting on this. It's bothering me on the screen. Might make our lighting a little better. Yeah, I always wonder. I at one point had considered becoming a police officer, but I looked at things. I didn't know if I wanted to swear to enforce laws that I didn't personally agree with. For instance, I don't know if I'd want to take anybody to jail for smoking weed. Like if I caught somebody smoking weed, I just don't think that I could personally enforce that.
Yeah. Well, those laws have changed now because if they just in possession of it, it's just it's literally a citation.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. I know a lot of guys there. We get a lot of guys from Baltimore City or Baltimore County that retire and they go to Towson. So they were like big drug guys, and I would be this on drugs and hard on drugs, stuff like that. Now I'm like, well, what do you do now? Right citation. Here you go. Walk away.
Probably not for harder drugs, though. I would imagine, right?
No, the hard stuff you take them in.
Do you get that stuff up your way?
We have, but I haven't seen it yet. Like
Yeah.
I said, nobody's really on campus, but I know that we've seen it.
What's the party drug of choice at Towson?
Oh, it's always going to be marijuana.
Oh, nothing hard? It's not good?
Nothing I've seen that's hard.
Okay.
Nothing I've seen. Not saying it's probably not there, but I haven't seen it.
So I want to get into more of the controversial events over the last year dealing with police. And really specifically, how do events like George Floyd or how does that affect the day-to-day at the police department?
That was hard. That was real hard. I remember watching that video and begging somebody just to yank the guy off of him. Like, dude, you're sitting there watching this man die. Take him off of his neck. I don't know how anybody in law enforcement does not understand positional asphyxiation. I really don't. We know about it from being in jiu-jitsu. Like, if I apply enough pressure this way, you're going to pass out. I just don't understand that, and it was just a complete lack of respect for human life. That's what it looked like to me. Make me sick. Still makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about it.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah. We talked about that in the academy when it happened. And just kind of like, hey, look, if you see something that's wrong, you need to be responsible for it. You need to be in there because you will get jammed up if you're a part of it, and if you don't do anything, which those other officers were. Nobody did anything to stop it, and they all got jammed up. Rightfully so.
Yeah. Does the culture promote that?
No.
No.
Does not. I had notions going in that, some of these guys probably getting a little rough with people, stuff like that. But luckily, I found that not to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was really surprised and happy about that. Nobody wants to go hands-on. They'd rather everything end very peacefully. Go your way, go my way, we're good. If you got to go hands-on, I'm not afraid to do it, but we don't. We're not looking for that.
So, what's changed since then? I mean, I know you started after that.
Yeah.
But based off what you've been through in the last 6 months, have you seen changes that were either specifically from that event or similar events?
The arrest tactics that we would use to render people under control. Once you cuff them, you immediately put you in a position of arrest, which is kind of getting you up immediately. Even if you're handcuffed, might sit you down on a curb or something like that. Just kind of make sure you can breathe. You're fine. If you're still being combative, put you in a position where you can breathe.
Yeah.
But
so upright.
Yeah.
As opposed to laying on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw the position where officer had a girl kind of hog-tied in a car.
With the hands and feet?
Yeah, and she rolled around in the car, and she was kind of ended up in this weird position where she could have died.
Yeah. I didn't see that, but that's pretty terrible.
Yeah, she could have died. When he ended up getting back to the station, the officer saw it immediately, and they got her out and got her up. And he was terminated, rightfully so.
Yeah.
He felt like he did nothing wrong, but you just don't leave people in those positions like that. That's just complete, like I said, disregard of human life, no matter what crime they committed.
Yeah.
We're not the judges or executioner. We just enforce the law. Leave that up to the courts.
Yeah. Have you seen morale affected? I mean, like,
during the George Floyd incident, yes. There were a lot of officers that were like, you saw some guys that really took it to heart. They really felt bad about it, disgusted about it, like kind of I felt. You just kind of were disgusted. During the riots, you felt a lot of morale go down.
Yeah. And you said you were almost called out to join in with the police. I don't know the words. I can't think of the words right now.
Just to
police.
To police
the
riots. Yeah. And I remember just grabbing my gear, my riot helmet, and all my stuff, and they're like, "Just be prepared if we have to go out there." I was like, "Okay." He was like, "I hope not, but if I am, I'm gonna be good. I'll be okay. I'm gonna protect myself, and I'm gonna protect the others, other officers, other civilians that are out there."
Did the university police department have a unified? Did they make like one? We support the BLM movement, or how did
the police department
stance?
Did not, but the university did. They had like small protests on campus, which we were out there just to make sure everything was fine. We weren't there to take part. We were actually kind of take a step back and protect the protesters. Let them protest. Let them get their feelings and issues out they want to get out. But also, we don't need to push them to go to a certain area.
Yeah. Did you feel animosity towards you, like from the students or whoever was protesting?
Surprisingly, no.
Really?
No. I get a lot of people that come up to me. They say like, "I appreciate your service, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for doing what you're doing." And those are all black people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it made me proud, made me feel good. My parents, when I told them I was becoming an officer, they didn't like it. But especially my father, he was like, "Oh man."
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
From his experience when he was younger, and the things he had to deal with, things some of my grandfather had to deal with when he was younger from the police. It's like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
And I was like, I told him exactly what I told you earlier. I feel like I have something else to provide to give to the community, and that's why I want to do this.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I saw on your Instagram you had shared a photo of a black police officer marching, and your caption was, "I'm the change." And I wanted that, like, what type of change do you think that you as an individual inside of this system can affect?
Everything. Once I get higher up, certain policies that we have to abide by, things like that. Communicating with the public, I can change that. I can change people's perception of law enforcement officers. We're not out here to beat you up. We're not out here to lock you up. We're not out here, to do any of those things. We're not here to take your money.
Yeah.
We're here to enforce the laws and protect the community, protect and serve. I think our motto is protect and serve with integrity, and that's what I want to do.
That's excellent.
And I felt like, I could have gone to Baltimore City, I could have gone to Baltimore County, but I would just be handling calls. At least on the university side, I can interact with college kids.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be the next ones up. And I can interact with them. I can, talk to them on a level. They feel safe. They understand where I'm coming from. I can understand where they're coming from. And we can come to kind of some mutual, respect or mutual ground.
Mutual understanding.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I've interacted with a lot of kids already that I know, and I'm still friends with. Brenton is one.
Oh, yeah. Brenton, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he was actually mad at me one day. I was like, "Why, man? Why are you mad at me?" He says, "Dude, you wrote me a parking ticket." I was like, "Damn, is that your car?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm sorry, man."
Probably just messing with you. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he was good. I told him how to, get around it and stuff like that. I was like, "Hey, that's what you do to get around it, man."
There you go. I mean, yeah, the system has to work for you, right? That's what we got to figure out, how to make the system work for everybody.
Yeah, and it's never, not one party is going to be happy with everything.
Yeah.
But as long as you come to a mutual understanding, that's what it's about.
Well, and like I said, you probably don't want to write parking tickets. But at the end
those
I
hate writing.
Yeah.
I actually hate writing those.
But at the end of the day, there's a point to them, I imagine, somewhere. you know.
The only time I enjoy writing those is if you're in a fire lane or a handicap. The handicap is my big pet peeve. If I find people in a handicap spot, I instantly get upset. I think about like my grandmother. I think about anybody that's handicapped that needs that accessibility, and I immediately go right after it.
Oh, good. That's good to hear, because I always said if I had to do, that's the kind of laws that I would enforce real hard.
Yeah.
Like, throw the book at them.
Yeah, I'm like that one. Oh man, it really gets me.
Locked up, going to jail. Such a real crime. So I wanted to, so Towson, you said you chose Towson so you can interact with the future, right? I guess, you know, the adults and the decision makers of tomorrow. Is that where you see yourself? Is that where you want to have your career? Or, I mean, it's early in your career, obviously.
Yeah, for right now, honestly, I don't know. I'm a baby in law enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, I need to learn as much as I can possibly learn. And that was one thing that the instructors in my academy, they preached about. They're like, yeah, you know, some of you guys can probably get to higher up and things like that into other specialized units, but you want to learn as much as you can learn before you move into those units. You know, and where you learn is patrol.
Yeah.
You know, you get some guys that love patrol, they never leave it. You get some guys that move on to other things, stuff like that. But right now, I just need to learn. I need to learn as much as possible. That's why I look at everybody's reports when I see them come in. I read them, go over it, like, okay, that looks good. And it also helps me out from my own report writing. That's why I'll look at them so much. I read them.
Yeah, when you said you looked at the history, I'm like, oh, I wonder if all police do this, or if you're just kind of a nerd in that.
Probably.
Looking at the history of, you know, what should I expect this month, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at that, and I'm like, you know, part of it is like, too, it's quiet right now, so I have that time, so I can actually go back, read a report. Okay, look at this report, read that one, too. How they got to deal with that. So, yeah. If I was a little bit more busy, I don't know. Maybe the early part of my day I read a report, then I go off and enforce.
You had, so I want to double back to, you had talked about, you know, how your parents felt. Do you get any, from the black community, your black friends and family, is it more one way than the other?
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag?
Yeah. Like, I get a lot of guys, I'll see it on social media. They're like, fuck the police and all this other stuff. I'm just like...
Does that affect you? Okay, I want to hone in on that. Because I know that we have mutual friends that are not fans of the police. Very much of the law or the government or anything. When you see that on social media, how does that make you feel?
It pisses me off a bit, but then I realize who's typing that stuff, who's putting that stuff out there. I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, I know where this guy's coming from. I know his background, and I know he's kind of like that, or she's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't need to interact with her. You know, just if they want to do that, let them do it. Whatever. But I kind of find it funny that people do say negative things, and then I'll make a post myself, and they'll comment, oh, you know, I love you, bro, and there's nothing like that. And I'm like, then why are you saying fuck the police? This is part of my life now.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make those blanket statements. You got to think about things. You're just saying something out of anger, or you know, not really thinking about the ramifications. So you got to think about that stuff.
At 6 months in, do you see being a police officer as part of your identity overall, even when you're not in uniform? Even here, you know, I mean, obviously you're talking about being a police officer and representing them, but is that just, hi, I'm Charles Gamble, I'm a police officer, I'm a Jiu Jitsu black belt?
Yeah, it's I've always kind of said that first, police officer first, and the Jiu Jitsu, Muay Thai, and all the other stuff kind of rolls off later. But as I get more and more into it, yes, I noticed that when I'm out in the public, even not when I'm in a uniform on, just kind of walking around, I'm looking at clues. I'm looking at things. I'm looking at people. I'm like, when I'm out with my wife, I'm probably doing more so when I'm with her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, we're going to walk this way.
Oh.
We're going to go that way.
Avoiding situations.
Yeah, I was like, nah, this guy kind of looked a little shifty. I'm not sure what he's up to. Let's kind of hang back before going around these areas, stuff like that. When we go into the city is when I was probably at the highest. You know, looking out for people, looking for things, especially, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Which is weird because before I was a police officer, never thought about that at all.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm a fighter. I can take care of myself. Whatever happens, I'll deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, shit.
You realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my bird. You realize that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm realizing like, man, I was a little ignorant back then.
Yeah.
I know a little bit more now. So,
aside from the situational awareness, there's a car alarm. It's not my car, is it?
it's not mine.
No. Yeah, someone's breaking into a white Lexus out there.
Oh, yep, that's mine.
Aside from the situational awareness, do you think it'll ever be just a job, something you go to and then just come home and you don't think about it?
No.
No.
I make a big point of not bringing work home with me, but it's not like I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think about my day tomorrow's going to be like, or my week is going to be like. I just, it's kind of weird, man, but it's yeah, I do think about like all the time, stuff like that, but I try not to bring it home to my wife, stuff like that. She worries about me enough. I'm like, dude, I'm at a university. I'm okay. I'm okay for the most part. When I'm on midnight, stuff like that. Okay, it might be a little more hectic then. But for right now, I'm all right. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird question. I can't quite answer that one for some reason.
Well, sorry, and all right, I gotta take care of this. I gotta take care of this noise. Give me a sec.
All right.
All right. Sorry. So we were talking about taking it home. Has your wife ever noticed that maybe you brought it home?
Yeah, she's really good about picking up my mood swings. She'll ask me, hey, what's going on? And I'll be truthful with her. If I feel like, something that's bugging me, it might help me get it off my chest and we'll talk about it. But for the most part, I really hadn't had that. It's more of she'll come to me and say, well, what do you think about this that happened? What do you think that happened? What are your thoughts? And we'll discuss it.
Do you become kind of the de facto expert if you're in a room and it's like, well, everybody looks to you because you have experience with dealing with the law or people?
Not quite yet.
No.
Luckily, there have been other officers in the room that are more experienced. I just kind of defer. I'm like, talk to that guy. He's got more experience. But I guess with a small group of friends, they're like, well, why you gotta do this? Why you gotta do that? And I'll explain to them the letter of the law and why they would do certain things in those cases. And I'd let them know, no, that's just about right. Breonna Taylor case incident, same thing. I've had that discussion with a bunch of people. She lost her life, and it's tragic, and I feel real bad for her family about that because she shouldn't have lost her life. But the boyfriend opened fire.
Did he?
He opened fire first.
I'm not too familiar with the case, but
those officers they are trained, and we're trained. Somebody's opened a fire on you, you return. Unfortunately, that's how she lost her life. If that doesn't happen, she lives.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on with most of it. I don't know the exact details of that case, but that's what I try to tell people. Why did they open fire? I was like, because they were fired upon first.
Do you think that's a situation where, because that was what's called a no-knock warrant, right?
Yep.
Like they just came through the door unannounced. And that was in Georgia?
No, that was in Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, and I assume in that state that you have, the castle, like a castle doctrine where you can defend your house. Do you think that is just a situation that because of the circumstances they came in unannounced, he happened to have a firearm and
it was a legal firearm too.
A legal firearm.
He legally owned that firearm.
Felt the need to defend himself, as many of us probably would for a no-knock warrant. I don't know if they shouted police or not, but just very unfortunate circumstances because he did begin the shoot and, they're trained, police are trained to react a certain way. People are shooting at them. They need to defend their lives, obviously.
Yep.
And do you think it's just everything kind of lined up for a bad situation?
Yes. 100%. They didn't go in there with the intentions of killing anybody. I'll tell you that right now. Nobody does. You go in there with the intentions of, I'm not sure what the warrant was for,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not quite sure what the details of it, but they probably went in there for a valid reason,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't to kill anybody. It was probably for either drugs or weapons, and unfortunately that happened, and we all know what happened after that.
Yeah. That's a heavy situation.
It's stressful. It's stressful on both parts. If you're in your home and somebody busts in, you're like, "What the hell?" You think you think it's what's the name, an armed robbery?
Yeah, just
it's a home invasion.
Someone kicked the door now. I mean,
Yeah.
how would we respond?
I'll jump over the banister and kick him right in the face.
There you go. Yeah. Careful with all the Santas on the banister there. My wife would get mad, but how do you? So this is the Breonna Taylor situation. Somebody was killed who was unarmed. How does the police department and the public move on? Like, how do we rectify that situation?
It's a good question.
And I
The
don't,
public is going to want, what they want now. They want arrests. They want to see certain actions being taken. But you got to look at, are those actions justified? Those officers did lose their jobs. People want to see.
I'm sorry, you say did or didn't?
I believe 2 officers lost their jobs. People want them to go to jail. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I just don't, because of the situation and how it happened. I just don't see it. Yeah, it's that one's going to be. They're never going to come to a mutual agreement on that. It's not going to happen. No, it probably will never happen. The other case, that probably will happen. You will probably see some officers go to jail on that one.
George Floyd?
The George Floyd situation there.
Just the gentleman who was leaning on his neck, on George's neck, where all
you
the
might
officers
see.
involved.
I can see him going. I'm not sure about the rest of them, but I can see that officer that was leaning on his neck definitely going, just because of the posture, the video, everything that the public can see.
Yeah, it's very visible.
Yeah, and just the blatant disregard. He's just kind of sitting there, just looking, no emotion on his face, very stoic looking. It's like
Very relaxed.
yeah.
Which is interesting in of itself, because he was able to be so relaxed. I mean, he obviously had
He had the numbers.
control. Yeah,
He had the numbers.
They were all
It's 4-on-1.
Were his hands in his pocket? Do you
Yep.
believe?
He was kind of sitting there with hands in his pocket, just leaned up on his neck.
Just relaxed. So I asked you about the culture, and if the culture is there for people to speak up, and you said no.
As far as
Well, so if you're in a situation like that, where I watched the entire video from the police cam, and Mr. Floyd in the beginning was acting. He was very nervous, right? And so they put him in the car, and then he eventually he pushed himself out, and that's when kind of everything happened.
yeah.
So, obviously it's you and fellow officers. You're responding, and you see, I can't remember the officer's name who was kneeling on his neck, but someone behaving inappropriately or excessively.
You can stop that. If you feel that happening, you can. It's your job and your responsibility to. Do you see officers do it sometimes? I'm not sure who was the higher command, because sometimes it's hard to say. If there's a sergeant out and I'm just a private, for me to step in, my sergeant, they're like, "Hey, look, don't do that." Yeah, you'll have that. You're always going to have that. But if you know for a shadow of a doubt that something's going wrong, or they're doing something wrong, stop it immediately.
Yeah. But does the culture exist that allows you to address somebody like that? Like,
there's a chain that it goes up.
But in the heat of the moment, it's like, hey man, you might need to just take some pressure off that guy's neck.
Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, you see it. Well, actually, you see it sometimes. So sometimes you'll see it in a recording. Most of the time, it does happen. You never see footage of it
Because it doesn't become an event.
Exactly.
It's not popular.
Yeah. It doesn't fit the narrative of, the police brutality type deal, so you don't see it. But from more experienced officers, I'll talk to them about, their cases all the time, and they'll tell me, for instance, when he had to step in.
Yeah.
You know.
I can imagine it's easy because you deal with such stressful situations, and it's like you said with walking up to a traffic stop. You never know what someone has on them. That it could be very easy to lose your cool and to stop looking at someone, you know, like a person and more of just a straight threat, or just an obstacle that you need to deal with. And I can't imagine how, you know, I would behave in those situations. We all would like to say, oh, well, I'd be really nice and gentle, but if you've ever had somebody swinging at you, or I mean, you know, as a nurse, you get spit on, and it's like, it's very difficult, you know, to
maintain your professionalism.
It's tough. You know, and sometimes you have to walk out. I have the luxury, I can walk out of the room because I have other friends, you know, coworkers there. But maybe as a police officer, you don't.
You can't. You got to address it. You got to stay right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. Like the one case I was telling you about before, where the guy was approaching the traffic. The accident. Actually, it was a traffic accident. He was approaching it, and everything in me told me, "Yo, stomp this dude out and be done with him." But then I had to realize, oh yeah, I'm in uniform. I'm an officer. I can't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
You know, as a civilian now, I'm just like, what the hell you just say? I told you to stay away from me. Do what I have to do. Now I'm like, oh no, there's protocol. I can't just go out and arrest a guy, or, you know, get physical with a guy just because he's not agreeing with what I told him to do.
Yeah. You really have to swallow your pride, I imagine, in a lot of situations.
And you get a lot of people calling you kind of names, like, you know, he was saying all kind of names and stuff like that, and calling us all kind of crap, and I was just like, whatever, man. Just as long as you stay over there, you can say whatever you want, you can record whatever you want, stay out of the way.
Have you ever encountered racism or any kind of anything that you felt was biased since you? I mean, it's been
since being a police officer?
Yeah.
No. I've encountered racism when I was a kid, but nothing as like an adult or anything like that.
Is there a lot of training specifically for dealing, you know, you're on a college campus, there's a huge variety of cultures and ethnicities, I'm sure. Do you have any kind of cultural sensitivity training?
No. That's pretty much just, you know, common sense, I would like to say. A lot of people don't have that common sense, you know. But yeah, I guess because you know, for me anyway, for jiu-jitsu, you teach so many different people from ethnic backgrounds. Like I've had Muslim students, stuff like that. It's just already in me to kind of be sensitive to them or to anybody else. So I don't know. I just don't really get real crazy about it. Yeah, it's something I've already have in me.
Just be polite.
Yeah, just if you're polite, you're a nice person, they'll get that. It'll rub off. You got to step up. You got to be a little more assertive. They get that too.
Yeah.
You know, it's just how you handle that situation. What does that situation call for? Does it call for somebody to be assertive, or does it call for you to kind of be a little bit step back, more reassuring, more kinder, or more gentler?
Yeah. What's the overall culture like inside the police department? In terms of, like sometimes fighter culture, you know, we're crass. We kind of joke around. We're not always the nicest to each other. It's just like playfully.
Yeah.
But is there a lot of
that? You get that. Yeah, you get a lot of little locker room talk.
Yes. People don't think it exists, but it does, right?
Yeah, it does exist, but it's never mean-spirited. It's always just kind of like in a joking situation. I think with now, that has calmed down quite a bit. You don't get that as much as you used to get. The culture that has definitely changed quite a bit. Or, you can say what you want, stuff like that, but now with, body cams and stuff like that, they pick it up. You go back to the station, you're going to hear about that. So,
what's the policy with the body cam?
I don't know. I don't have one.
Oh, you don't wear a body cam?
No, we don't have one.
Oh.
I've heard some things because some of the guys I went to the academy with, their department had body cams. Other guys have come from agencies with body cams, and they pretty much said, like, be as professional as possible. Everything gets picked up. Just be professional. As long as you're professional, as long as you're squared away, you're doing things you need to do, you have nothing to worry about. It's just for those guys and that kind of go off. It says it's technically it's there to protect you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, would you prefer to wear one?
I don't know, probably would just to, like I said, just it's there to protect me.
Cover
Make
your
sure,
butt.
hey, look, I did everything the right way, didn't do anything wrong. Here's my evidence. There you go.
Yeah. How important is camaraderie?
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Very.
Do you have, you have to have, I would imagine, ultimate trust in the person standing next to you.
Yes.
To protect you.
I think they, when I came on, they were all happy about that with me. They were like, I get that a lot from our canine guy too. It's kind of funny. We're leaving, and I just got a T-shirt on. I'm walking out. He says, "Yeah, if I go to a call, I'm definitely calling Gamble. He's coming with me." I'm like, why is that? He says, "Look at the size of them guns you got there, man." I'm like, I can take care of myself. He says, "Yeah, that's why you're coming with me." He says, "I'm too old for all this fighting and stuff. You can do that."
What? So how is your training? In MMA and Jiu Jitsu and Muay Thai. Obviously that's beneficial for a police officer.
Extremely.
How many fights did you have through MMA?
Quite a bit. I think I've had, between my amateur and pro career, about 20 fights.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Is that all MMA or
all MMA?
Muay Thai?
All MMA fights.
Nice. And you fought Shogun, right? The local professional venue.
Fought for Shogun twice. Rollo tried to get me in there a few more times. I just wasn't able to meet that.
Yeah.
That deadline at the time, or that date. He's asked me again if I'll be willing to come back, but looking at our next fight, with this pandemic going on, I might be 40, 41.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting.
Well, hey, Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. just fought. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at that like, man, no, I'm not. Everybody wanted to see that. I'm like, dude, there's two 50-year-old guys fighting. No.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it.
I can't stay up that late anymore.
I watched the Nate Robinson, was it Jake Paul fight?
Oh yeah.
Whew, felt bad for that guy.
Yeah, he went to sleep.
Yeah, it's. I can't talk any shit for that guy. He can't say a word to anybody now.
Yeah.
You get knocked out like that, you just gotta swallow that.
It happens, right? It happens. So you became a jiu-jitsu black belt in 2019, right?
Yep.
September? When was it?
August.
August.
Yep.
How was that? How long had you been training?
It was 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Long 10 years.
Proud moment, I imagine?
It was bittersweet. It was weird, man. It was like, because at that time, I'm in the academy. I'm not really training as much as I had been. I'd been, the academy every day.
Yeah.
Now I'm there twice a week if I'm lucky. So when it came down to it, I was like, I'm not sure if I actually deserve this. Maybe wait another year or two to get it to me. And black belt Ataeji, he said, no, man, you deserve this. You definitely do. I was like, well, if you say I do, but if you don't want to give it to me, I'm fine with that too.
No one's going to doubt a black belt from Ataeji.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of good guys under him. So.
Yeah.
And you see that with people who jiu-jitsu isn't their profession or their life, right? Because there's the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, but one of my teammates just got a black belt, and he's in there. He trains 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And I imagine I train quite a bit, but at some point I'll drop back. I don't know if you can have that standard of training every day or training to be a competitor.
In my heart, I do.
Well, yeah, you want to be able to beat everybody, right? You feel like you should be able to dominate everybody.
Yeah,
but.
like I don't know. I haven't trained jiu-jitsu consistently in some time now, and it's like I can probably be very competitive for 2 minutes out of a 5-minute round.
Yeah.
The other 3, me trying to survive or looking for a position to rest and see what I can do from there. But and that's just because I've been out so long. But a normal street fighting, I can be able to hold somebody down quite easily. But another, jiu-jitsu practitioner, we're going to be rolling for quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I imagine that changes the way you have to roll, right? Because 10 years, so you probably were training when you're 29.
Yep.
You probably don't have the gas in the tank, right?
Not anymore like I used to.
I mean, at 31, I don't have the same gas I did when I was 26.
Yeah,
I feel that
definitely
now. I don't recover as well, so I feel like it probably has to change how you approach training. You can't just go 100%, and you have to be more technical and tactical.
And that's the thing too. You got to find different things. And I've been injured quite a bit during my fighting career, so learning how to still train while recovering from injury has helped me out with that.
Yeah. Nursing injuries.
Yeah, I've had broken hands. Knees are just ripped to shreds. Things like that. So you find different ways. I think I forgot what it was. I think one of my knees I hurt in an MMA fight, and I literally went back to training that same week.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't do certain things I could do before, so we're going to start working on different type of guards. And I was like, I'll do half guard because I can do that fine, and I got really good at it. So it's like now I just prefer half guard as my guard of choice.
Yeah.
Before it was like De La Hiva, stuff like that. I kind of get real fancy with stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I'll just do half guard from now on.
Nice. You said you're training differently now, though, that you're a police officer, doing more defensive tactics.
Yep.
What does that look like?
A lot of knife defense, a lot of gun defense, a lot of role playing. Get into a position where somebody might attack you from the side, from the back. Put a knife to your back, give me your money. How you got to figure out where you're going to move. If you're walking with somebody, you can't direct the knife towards them. You got to shift it another way.
Okay.
So a lot of that, a lot of gun defenses too, because people are going to rob you. What are they going to do? They're going to put the gun right to your face. Give me everything you got, and you got to look scared. If I'm looking at you like this, as you got a gun to my face, probably just going to shoot me.
Yeah.
So.
Someone told me once they were talking about knife defense, and I said, "Oh, I want to come play with knives," and he said, "No, you don't, because you're going to realize everybody gets cut."
Yes.
Is that kind of your experience?
Well, right now I haven't done a real knife. It's all been the rubber knife.
Yeah, but I mean...
but even with that, you realize, you make a mistake, you're going to get sliced. And my coach, Ruslan's really good with that. He says, hey, look, even if you make a mistake and you get sliced, you got to keep going, because they're not going to just slice you or stab you once. They're going to keep going.
Yeah, you can't stop.
Yeah, so if you make a mistake, you got to keep moving.
Where is this you're training?
With our coach, Ruslan Andrews, and he's up in Towson. Yeah, he's up in Towson.
Okay. What's the school called?
He does it out of his gym. He's an actual personal trainer, but Arsenal Fitness.
Arsenal Fitness.
Yeah, right about Quarry Lake.
How does someone become a knife fighting expert that they can teach it? Like, is that a specific martial art?
No, he just had that training. He's had that training. He's got the he started out as a professional boxer back in Russia. Then he moved on from there between kickboxing, and then I think he did a lot of Sanshao fights. Did a lot of martial arts growing up, and he's got really good at it. I think I met him training with a friend, Tanya Dixon. That was his coach, and that's how I met Ruslan, and been training ever since.
Do you feel like, so this is something you're doing on your own, right?
Oh yeah.
Does the department sponsor that type of defensive tactics training?
They'll always want you to do something outside of the department.
What kind of how do they support it though?
I mean, they won't pay for it. That's on your own. But they're going to always say, please seek out training. Don't ever stop.
Yeah.
You get a lot of guys that kind of get lazy over the years. Like our profession is probably top 5, for obesity. You see a lot of out of shape cops.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, and it's like, Jesus, how did he become a cop? He can't even get into his car. You don't want to be that guy. So you want to continue to train and get better. You never know. You're going to have to run and chase somebody. You're going to have to jump a fence. You're going to do something. You're going to be in shape for that.
Do you feel like there's strict enough standards for police officers? For physical training, defensive tactics training?
What do you mean by stiff enough? restrictions?
Not restrictions, standards. So PT tests. Like
No.
you say, you do see a lot of very overweight police officers, and it's like, how are you going to run down someone?
Only when you're on the when you're entering the academy or you're entering you're applying for it. You do a physical agility test, kind of test where you are, if you can actually do it. Carroll County did something which I like a lot. Instead of the standard push-ups, sit-ups, the mile run, anybody can do that. You can wake out of bed and just get up and do that. They actually set up a nice little obstacle course. Of everything an officer would have to do to catch a suspect, with running up flights of stairs, running I think there was like was it 200 meters, something like that. Army crawling, jumping over things, carrying a dummy. They did a lot of that. And then at the end, you have to shoot. You have to grab your gun, cock it, and shoot at a target, with your hand being steady and not being like all over the place.
Yeah.
So I was like, I like that a lot. It's a different standard, because they said that, even instructors like, anybody can do that, but can you do this?
Yeah. Perform once you're under stress.
Yeah. So which I like that a lot. I think they've implemented that into their application process for newer officers. We were test dummies for my academy class, so we tested it out. See, and they asked us, gave us, for feedback and see how do we like this, do we like that, how did this go, and with all of us pretty much said the same thing, that we enjoyed that more than the PT test.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah,
more realistic training. So right now, it's kind of pop culture. It's to call for changes made to the police. A lot of people are saying defund the police, and not really as a nuanced statement, more of just a blanket defund the police.
Yeah, they don't really understand what that means.
Yeah,
like even for me, before I became a police officer, I assumed they had all this stuff, all this equipment, all those things like that. No, they don't. They need more funding, because that funding goes towards training. That funding goes towards a lot of things that, for police officers to be more competent at their positions on the street. I just don't understand it. I mean, I think one agency I forget where I saw that. It was on the news, actually, where they have these like the social workers that go out now. So
I think that's in Colorado, maybe. Definitely.
Yeah. So guess what happened? Social worker went out. They were killed.
That's happened as of this year?
It was very recent. They went out on a call. They were killed.
Did they go with police?
No, they were called first. The police responded afterwards once that happened. And that's like, you're going to be putting a lot of lives at risk. Yes, there are some times where you want that social worker to go, but you want them to go together. And that's for like something that somebody with like that's on the spectrum, stuff like that. Somebody that's maybe not mentally well, that we're not equipped to really handle. Like, I don't really know what to do here, but I want to make sure this guy or female isn't being aggressive or violent anyway, and that they're not. You step in, I'll take a step back.
Yeah. Well, I think, that does. I didn't realize they were going out alone. I mean, I have a lot of respect for social workers, but I imagine obviously there's a time where you do need to become hands-on, and if they're not trained to do that or trained to protect themselves, and if de-escalation fails, there should definitely be someone there to be prepared to deal with that.
I have a friend, she's a social worker, and I'm like, don't ever go out by yourself. I believe she's just working with kids right now, but like, if you ever start working with adults, don't ever go anywhere by yourself.
Yeah.
Make sure you have somebody with you.
Well, if you could make changes, what are some of the things you would change about either how the police behave or how the public behaves?
Unfortunately, I'm a little too new to really get into that. I wish I could, but that'll come in time once I'm, kind of get my feet wet, stuff like that, and I'm in the department. As far as public, that's never going to change. The public going to have their opinion, and that's always going to be their opinion, regardless. You could talk to them as much as you want. Some people, they don't want to see it or want to hear what you have to say. I believe there's going to be a lot of changes as far as police policy, though.
Yeah.
What changes are going to happen, I don't know. But there are going to be a lot of changing, a lot of policies. I think since I've been out, some of our policies have changed quite a bit from, what they were before. But nothing that I would personally say that jumps out to me like, I would do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Nothing that really jumps out at me like that.
Okay. Sorry, one thing I forgot to ask. Was there anything that kind of jumped out at you that caught you off guard, or you found kind of striking when you first became a police officer, something you didn't expect, or something that was just way more extreme than you thought?
Honestly, the support for police officers. There are a lot of people that support law enforcement, and going in, I just automatically assume people are going to be like, F you and do blah, 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 blah. No, it's been a lot of support. I got my first little taste of it. I was going to Royal Farms. It was a hot summer day. Everybody was outside. I kind of pull her in the corner, and I could see like 50 people outside. And I'm like, holy shit, I want to get cussed out. Because this was right after, I think maybe a month after the George Floyd incident or murder. I pull up, and I'm looking like, oh God, I'm already here. Just get out, get back in as fast as possible. Yeah. I got out, everybody started clapping and applauding and thanking me for my service. And it was a mixed crowd. It was white people, black people, Asian. And that caught me by surprise. I felt really good. I felt really, really good about that. And I haven't had too much negative comments, things like that, other than one guy about being an officer. So that's probably my biggest surprise so far.
It's not what I was expecting when I asked that question, but that's excellent. That you see a lot of support out in the streets, and I imagine that means a lot too.
It does, because you want to feel like your work goes towards something, or it's appreciated. You can speak for this. You want to make sure if you take care of somebody that they say, "Oh my God, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it." Even though that's your job, you at least like to hear it.
Yes, not a lot of people say thank you, so it is very special when they do. It really goes a long way, because it is my job. I'm going to do it either way, and I imagine you're the same way, whether they hate you or like you. But just someone showing appreciation is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, you're just like, oh man, cool, thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've had people offer to buy me things. I'm like, no, that's okay, I appreciate that though. I can pay for it on my own. But it's that little gesture that makes me feel a little good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Well, I certainly appreciate what you do, what police officers do. I'm not always happy to see you behind me when I'm driving, but I know it's not an easy job. Someone has to do it, and there's a lot of tricky situations.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly thankful that you're out there, that people are out there doing that work.
Yeah, it's very stressful, and they like to hear it too, that people out there thanking them. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, that's about it for me. I always ask my guests thus far, what does the future hold? Like, obviously you're 6 months into it, but what are you looking at 5 years down the road, 10 years, 20 years?
Personally, I like to get into a canine unit. I love dogs, and I like to be out there. I think that'd be pretty awesome to do. I'm also personally just get back out competing again. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions that I wanted to do. Things got shut down. I couldn't do them. I don't know, man. There's just a lot of things out there that not one thing in particular stands out, but there's a lot of options, put it that way. And it's just which way I want to go.
Well, that's a good place to be with a lot of options. You did remind me of one thing that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if it was 2017 or 2018, but it was the DC Open, and it was a Sunday, and you had just fought Shogun. I don't know if it was 2000.
It's
18 or 19.
19. Yeah.
And you had fought. You had MMA fight the night before, and then you entered a jiu-jitsu competition
Yep.
the next day.
Craziest thing I ever done in my life.
So my friend, I didn't know who you were at the time, and I was like, dude, that's Charles Gamble. And I'm like, so what? And he's like, he just had an MMA. He just fought at Shogun last night. And I'm like, oh shit, because I go into it like as breasted as it can be, and I can't even imagine.
Yep.
So that's pretty badass.
It was going into it. I'm like, when I woke up that day for the tournament, I'm like, my fight didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't lose. It just ended up in a draw. Kind of still felt like a loss.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm good. DC Open, let's do it. And I'm like, I get there, and I go through my first match, and like I can start to feel it, like my body cramping up. I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this was a good idea. And then I go to my second match, which is the first place match, or the final, or whatever you call it. And I'm like, I'm doing my thing. I'm in a good position, and then everything around me just starts getting like whited out. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And like I could hear like a little, just it was weird how it happened. I ended up shaking it off. I ended up winning.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, but it was like, I think it was like all the adrenaline, everything that happened in that fight, it started just catching up to me.
Yeah.
Really quickly, and I was like, I think I should pull out. But the competitive side of me was like, hell no, man, we built for this. We're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And so I competed in the absolute right after winning my weight division. I ended up winning the absolute too, but after that I was like, I'm not ever doing this again. This was the craziest thing I've ever done in my life.
That's why you got your black belt. That's why you got your black belt.
Probably.
I mean, you took a draw in an MMA fight, and then you won your division and absolute. Yeah, that's probably why you got your black belt.
like, and even Ataï just like, he's like, hey, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm all right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was looking at me like, you sure you can do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. Let's do it.
Ataï seems like a tough guy. I'm surprised he would ask you that. You must have.
He cares. He's a tough guy.
Yeah.
He is, but he does care for everybody, man. He's got a big heart, and that's one of the things I love about the guy.
Yeah.
He'll go out. He'll look out for you, make sure everything's fine. Ask you all kind of questions. Make sure that he himself feels like you're good. Because if he doesn't feel like you're not going to fight, he'll tell you, get out of there. Yeah, he'll tell you.
That's a good quality in a coach, I think.
Yeah.
And someone you trust to put you out there to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, excellent. That's all I have. Do you have anything that you'd like to say, or anything you want to add?
Just right now, just feel really good about being a police officer. I really enjoy it. I think it's a move I should have made 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel we're in a really good place now. I'm more, I would say, mature for the position versus somebody that's coming out, 2021. I know myself. I know I'm not going to be swayed one way or the other. Stuff like that. I'm not going to be manipulated.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You have kind of some wisdom.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably very valuable in the position you're in.
Because younger officers, you can be swayed. Now I'm a grown man. You're not going to be swayed.
You know who you are, right?
It's not going to happen. I'm just really happy about everything. I think there's going to be some good changes that comes along, and everybody just needs to, just kind of appreciate one another. I think that's what a big thing. Just there are people out here doing real tough jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think, the doctors and nurses, they're doing a tough job dealing with this pandemic, dealing with things like that. I got a friend, she works at St. Joe's. Mm-hmm. She tells me these horror stories that you told me as well, like, being spit on, got to run around chasing naked patients, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I'm not ever doing that.
People don't even know. People have no idea. You see people at their absolute worst, and I'm sure you do too. And it's just, unless you're in there and you're doing it, or you're out there being a police officer, no one can know. Yeah,
and she's told me those horror stories, and I was sitting there like, she's like, yeah, the chase this patient around he's like 200 pounds, and she's a little bitty person, and like she's the security guard looks and he just goes, see you later.
Yeah, like, nurses there is violence against nurses, and they do have to put themselves in very potentially dangerous situations, even pregnant nurses. And we do that oftentimes before we call security. I mean, I'm obviously feel more comfortable with it just because of what I do, but it's madness sometimes.
I believe it, man. I believe it. Being so close to, I guess, Shepherd Pratt, we do see things that happen. You know, I'm not sure how they get off their campus, but they get off their campus all the time. And they just run amok through Towson or on our campus. So we have to, you know, catch them or whatever we have to do, make sure they're safe, and then call the right people so they can escort them back to their facility.
Shepherd Pratt is a mental health institution.
Yeah.
World renowned, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, we have, it's crazy because we're right next to Shepherd Pratt, we're right next to St. Joe, and GBMC is on the other side of us. So we're kind of like in a little circle where anything can really happen.
Yeah.
So it's always got to just be aware. We've had guys that walk away from St. Joe's, you know, and we have to escort them back.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how you got out, but you know, the security guy wasn't doing their job.
I don't want to speak ill of security. I'll say in quotes.
I've seen some of the guys. I can speak bad about them.
Yeah, just if you think about security and how you secure points of entry and exits, it's soft, in my opinion. But
it is.
I don't think it would be hard to walk in or out, honestly, to most of the hospitals I've seen. But yeah, crazy stuff happens in and around hospitals. People leaving who shouldn't leave, who need to stay, or people staggering in.
Like guys walking out with just boxers on them. Like, how did that happen?
Got fed up, got hungry. We weren't feeding them.
Oh, well, this guy, he just, okay, I had enough treatment, just walked straight out. I'm like, dude, nobody saw you? I saw the guy, you know, the security guard driving around in his car. He didn't stop you. Well, that's okay.
Well, you know, and they have every right in the world to leave. You know, hopefully they sign the paperwork before they do. That kind of shows that they're leaving against medical advice. But, you know, it's not the Hilton.
Yeah.
It's not to stay in the hotel. You don't always get to eat when you want.
Right.
You don't always get the medicines when you want.
I've seen that. I've seen that in my stay there. I've seen a few people kind of flip out. I'm like, I need this, I need that. I'm like, dude, they're busy. It's going to happen.
Yes, we are. And well, it's, you know, and so there are occasions. There are people, I hear stories who, I haven't seen it personally just because of the unit where I work, but they get violent just because they can't get the pain medication at the right time. You know, and if you're dealing with someone who has an addiction, you know, and they respond inappropriately. They don't act appropriate when it comes time to be told no. And so they might just leave, then come back, go out to the corner and come back or something.
Oh, God.
Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that. I appreciate you coming on and being candid, though.
Appreciate
Very nice having you here. Hopefully we can follow up sometime.
Yeah,
and
pretty free.
See how you're progressing. Hopefully all this gets over soon and I can see you on the mat sometime.
I would love that. Like I said, I haven't rolled in some time. I'm getting a little antsy.
Yeah.
My wife is like, we should get some mats in here. I'm like,
hey, that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
She's gonna let you get mats.
She wants to get mats in there. She's a blue belt. You know, she's like, I need to train too. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll figure it out.
Bam. Then you can have the boys over.
See, that's the part she probably won't want, but I could. That's what in my back of my head, I'm thinking. I'm putting mats down. I'm calling people over.
You just need like 1 or 2 friends who only train with you. You have a little pod, just like they have for kids for play dates.
Yep.
And that's it. Bam.
That's a good idea.
Alrighty, brother. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it.
Nice talking to you.